So Alex, dBridge. Typically, the way that I like to do these AMAs, and we'll have as more and more listeners come in to the Twitter Spaces, we'll eventually bring some of them in should they have questions and thoughts. Let's knock out some quick intros. So I'm Rob. I'm the CEO and co-founder over at Halborn. We've been excitedly working with the dBridge team. A little bit here on a project, and so I'd love to just start by getting a quick introduction of yourself, Alex, and then I also like to kind of focus on the past actually to start. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'd absolutely love to also just learn a little bit about your background, what you were working on before dBridge, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great. Probably we also should mention to the audience that there is a way to see the video stream, right? I don't know if there is a link published somewhere.
Yeah, we'll publish it somewhere. Again, we appreciate that this is sort of our first time doing this new round. We really want listeners with our new Halborn AMA series hop on into Twitter Spaces or our YouTube Live right now, and to see the video cast version of this. So good call. You can go to I believe it's youtube.com/channel/Halborn or something of that nature, or just Google Halborn and it's right there, or YouTube Halborn right there. And I'm sure we'll drop a link as well.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. Then let me probably get it started from the brief introduction about myself. My name is Alex Smirnov, and I'm co-founder of dBridge protocol. And I myself is a technical person. I went out from the academia. Actually, I graduated from Moscow State University, where I was doing PhD in mechanics and mathematics. And even though I didn't defend it because I was too fascinated by the blockchain technologies, but yeah, I'm a developer myself, and I'm in crypto since 2014. I started around with the BitShares technology, then with Steemit and EOS. I was a fan of Dan Larimer, and I really followed what he was doing back then. And in 2017, I founded Finom, the blockchain development agency, where we develop different kind of blockchain connected solutions. And we also had internal products like crypto storage solutions for banks and financial institutions. And since 2017, we worked together with Yaroslav, who is co-founder of dBridge as well, and he's CTO of dBridge. And yeah, we also participated in the numerous blockchain hackathons. We won many, for example, Waves hackathon or Steemit hackathon. We were also finalists of the Binance hackathon that was held in Singapore. So yeah, we were doing a lot of different kind of blockchain developments. And last year, we were mainly focused on trading and arbitrage strategies in the DeFi area. And the main problem that we were struggling with was the cross-chain transfers. Because many times we face situation when our funds was just stuck in different bridges, or our funds were frozen by centralized exchanges. And that's how we actually came up with the entire concept of dBridge, because we thought like, okay, that we need to solve this cross-chain liquidity transfer problem in a truly decentralized manner. And yeah, the main challenge was how do we interconnect various components of the protocol in different blockchains. And the project itself commenced during the Chainlink Global Hackathon back in April. And we leveraged Chainlink technology in order to interconnect dBridge smart contracts in different blockchains. And yeah, we won the hackathon. We got the first place among more than 140 great projects worldwide. And that's where the entire path, I would say, started. And after the hackathon, we were connected with many great VCs and partners. And we started to prepare the code base for a production-ready version with the main focus on security, of course. And just to cover a bit about the technical aspects of the protocol, dBridge, we like to say within our team, we are saying that dBridge is more than bridge. It's actually cross-chain interoperability and liquidity transfer protocol. And it's solving several key issues for the entire DeFi sector. The first one is bridging of any arbitrary asset between all of the blockchain that are supported by the protocol. The second problem we are solving is bridging of non-fungible tokens, NFTs. And the most exciting feature is the interoperability itself, because together with the bridging of liquidity, user or even smart contract can pass an arbitrary transaction data that will be executed in the target blockchain by keepers. And this can be flash loan or swap or passing liquidity through Tornado Cash for anonymous transfers. Actually, there are many different scenarios that can be built on top of dBridge. And one of the partial use cases would be cross-chain swap, of course. And after the mainnet launch, we'll support cross-chain swaps. And the main advantage here is that we do not do our own AMM, or we are not doing our own DEX. We are fully composable with existing DeFi ecosystem. And if user want to perform swap from one asset to another in different blockchain, the entire swap will be routed through existing liquidity pool of Uniswap or Balancer, if we are talking about Ethereum ecosystem, or for example, through PancakeSwap, if the target asset is located in Binance Smart Chain. So yeah, that's a bit about the technical. And yeah.
Well, your background is definitely fascinating. I myself was really big in sort of the EOS community as well, as part of sort of those hackathons, and it's interesting that you sort of came up and, taking a look at what everything was going on with BitShares into Steemit, and you won a couple of hackathons. Which hackathon did you end up winning first place, and then that turned into dBridge? Which one was that?
It was the Chainlink Global Hackathon.
Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember seeing that one. And that was just last year, right? In 2020?
No, it was back in April, actually.
Oh, even sooner. That's great. Well, that's awesome. Well, congrats on that. And so the way that I see sort of the present moment, and we see this day in and day out at Halborn, where it's getting tougher and tougher. So long as you do things right, it's getting tougher and tougher to hack proper smart contracts on Ethereum. It's getting tougher and tougher to hack proper web apps. We see some of the key attack vectors really being bridges, and this idea of interoperability. We've seen a number of different issues going on time and time again with that. So just the mere fact that you and I are even having this conversation, I think definitely reflects well on both of us, because you're taking security seriously, understanding that bridges have all sorts of potential issues that go on with them. So talk to me about sort of the present right now. So there's obviously, well, why don't we start here? What are the protocols that you are starting to bridge and work on the interoperability with? When we talk through that list first.
Yeah, sure. Maybe it's better to start from the current state, because
totally.
We are not in the mainnet yet. But we had our testnet up and running, and we had several thousand of users who tried the testnet. It's pretty decent volume, but that was on a testnet. And the first batch of the blockchains will have Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Heco, Polygon, and Arbitrum. So those will be EVM blockchains, of course, and that's our initial focus. We want to start from EVM compatible chains and then scale up to other chains like Solana, Terra, or Algorand, other ecosystems down the road. But yeah, in regards to the security, of course, security is quite complex in general when we are talking about the smart contract. But when we are talking about cross-chain interoperability, it's twice complex, because there are some new attack vectors, and there are new things that haven't been done before, because the area itself is quite new, right? And I would say that it's really important for all the projects to think about security in advance, before you're actually launched in the mainnet, because Of course, there are some projects who are like launching and then start to perform audits. But the point of that, once you're launched, once you have like decent amount of liquidity in the protocol, all the hackers have an economical incentive, right? Either to like execute your bounty or to execute the entire liquidity from your protocol. And obviously liquidity will be bigger than the amount of bounty. And yeah, that's why security is very important, and we treat it very important. And now we are at the stage when we have final version of our code base for the EVM blockchains, and we are working with security audit partners, and we are really excited to work with Halborn. And yeah, that's why we are not launching. Actually, we want to receive multiple audit reports before we are launched, and then we want to have kind of steadily graduate process. When we have limited liquidity initially, then we'll be listed at some bounty platforms like Immunify or C4, etc. And yeah, that's where we are. And
that's awesome.
We are working on audits and like doing everything before we start on the main.
Of course. And just as a reminder to the listeners out there and the people that are watching this live stream, we are actually going to be starting to open up for questions as well. So if you do have questions for Alex and I, head on over to the Twitter Spaces, and we will start letting people up that have some additional questions. So before we dig into that, though, so you're about to go live, you know, in the coming weeks, obviously going through many audits and working through that. You're looking to solve certainly one of the bigger problems going on right now in the space and in the ecosystem. So can you tell me a little bit more about sort of the fine tooth or more of the fine details of, like, for example, like how do you achieve consensus amongst the chains that you're working with? Things like Finality as well. Tell me a little bit more about like your specific details as to how you're tackling that.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, first of all, dBridge is a cross-chain interoperability protocol. And the protocol itself consists of two layers. The protocol layer, which is represented by the set of smart contracts in every blockchain supported by dBridge, and the infrastructure layer, which is represented by the set of validators who are elected by the dBridge governance and who perform relay of the transactions between the dBridge smart contracts in different blockchains. And by this protocol design, the main risk is what if validators will get into collusion, and what if validators will validate some fake transaction and withdraw the liquidity from the protocol. And in order to prevent that, we have the slashing and delegated staking mechanics implemented into the protocol. So basically, every validator elected by governance will stake a certain amount of liquidity into the slashing smart contract. And there are two ways actually to stake liquidity. So validator can stake his own liquidity, or validator can attract liquidity from users, from delegators, by sharing protocol rewards with those delegators. And this is, I would say, it's a quite unique approach that I haven't seen before, because by the protocol design, we have like small fee, which is taken by the protocol. It's 10 basis points, 0.1%. And half of those fees goes to the dBridge treasury, another half goes to validators and evenly distributed among them and delegators who stake for them. And by this protocol design, we have kind of closed loop economy when the collateral of validators always tend to the T value of the protocol. So the more liquidity will be passing through the protocol, the more APY of delegators will be there, and the more people will stake assets for reliable validators. So yeah, that's how we achieve the kind of true decentralization. And in regards to consensus among validators, it's worth to know that we do not have our own blockchain, and we strongly believe that blockchain is not needed for cross-chain interoperability, because we do not want to reinvent the wheel, right? And we strongly believe that the consensus among validators can be achieved on the smart contract level. So basically, when user performs transaction from, let's say, Ethereum to Binance Smart Chain, once transaction is confirmed in Ethereum, and when there is a finality, let's say we have 10 block confirmations, then all validators are relaying the transaction into the target blockchain. And as soon as we have decent amount of confirmations from dBridge validators, we treat this transaction as confirmed, and user can claim the asset in the target chain. So yeah, if we are talking about the liquidity transfer, then it's working like locking and minting. So user locks certain amount of asset in the native chain where this asset is originated, and he received the same amount of wrapped asset in the target blockchain to which transfer is performed. And validators act as a guarantee of decentralization, and they validate actions as well.
Okay. But then how does that relate to sort of like finality and kind of the settlement amongst the nodes then? Because it continues to be an issue amongst all the bridge technologies that we've been seeing out there. Yeah, I mean, can you talk a little bit more about that? And does it really, I mean, has the problem been mostly solved at this point in the Ethereum related chains? And then are you attacking any of the additional protocols at this very moment? Like for the mainnet launch, are you going to be doing anything else outside of sort of the Ethereum? I know that you're considering, looking into like sort of the Terras and Solanas and all the others out there.
Yeah, so in regards to finality, actually finality of transaction within dBridge ecosystem really depends on finality of transaction in the blockchain where this transaction was originated. And Ethereum takes the longest time period in order to get transaction confirmed. So it's like 10 or 11 block confirmations, which is a bit more than 2 minutes, right? And as soon as we have finality in Ethereum, then validators start to relay this transaction. And that allows to prevent reorgs or disappearing of transactions in the original blockchain. But yeah, transfers from Ethereum takes like longest time. It's about 2 minutes. And for all other chains, all transfers are almost instant because, for example, in Binance Smart Chain or in Polygon, finality transaction takes like less amount of time, and the user experience is really great. So, for example, if user wants to perform cross-chain swap from, let's say, Binance Smart Chain into Polygon, the transaction itself will take like, I don't know, maybe a few dozens of seconds maximum. So yeah, in regards to finality, we just wait when the transaction will become final on the original chain, and then we wait until we will receive the decent amount of confirmations from the dBridge validators. So the default value is 2/3 of validators should confirm this transaction, but this value can be increased depending on the transaction volume actually. And these are additional security measures we are implementing on the protocol level. So for example, if it's like $1,000 transaction, then we only require 7 out of 11 confirmations from validators. If it's 100K transaction, we require at least 9 out of 11 confirmations from validators, etc. And another interesting thing that we have implemented is the number of confirmations from validators within one block. For example, if the protocol observes that there are too many confirmations in one specific block, it automatically increases number of required confirmations from validators. So it will be not like 7 out of 11, but it will be rather 9 out of 11. That allows to avoid the case when validators, let's say, decide to get into collusion and perform some validation of bunch of small transactions in one block, and still protocol will handle that, and everything will be secure.
Okay. Yeah, certainly very, very, very interesting. So as a regular user of DeFi bridges myself. One of the things that I'm constantly running into is sort of the speed of all this, right? It makes sense that Ethereum is typically the slowest of them, and if you're sending from Ethereum to Polygon, or if you're sending from Ethereum to Terra or anything of that nature, as a user, it's still taking 10, 15 minutes to transfer those tokens from one to another. Is there anything that you're looking at to kind of sort of bridge that gap, so to say, so far, or just on the speed level?
Yeah, of course. And it's not only about the speed, right? The main problem right now that we have like many blockchains, we have many different bridges, and there is no unified standard. So if user wants to transfer liquidity from one chain to another, he needs to perform the due diligence to find out like what bridge he should use out of dozens, and what bridge will work really well, because most of the bridges have like wrapped assets, and when user bridges asset in specific blockchain, he realized that he received the wrapped USDT, for example, and he can do nothing with it because it's not liquid. There is no any utility, and that's one of the examples I faced myself, and many people are complaining about that as well. And so in dBridge, we aim to become a standard for cross-chain liquidity transfers so that any user can just get into the one deBridge UI, like select blockchain from and blockchain to, and perform the transfer. But even more than that, once we will be integrated with various protocols and projects, let's say if we would be integrated with 1inch, then user just gets like open the 1inch interface, select blockchain from, asset from, blockchain to, and asset to, and all the magic will happen under the hood. He will not even know that the transfer itself will be performed through dBridge because he just received the desired asset directly to his wallet. And that's really awesome user experience because it's like using internet without knowing how TCP/IP is working. That's what we aim for. And one part of our go-to-market strategy is to be integrated with various wallets and B2C projects who can really integrate cross-chain swaps directly into their UI, so that users will not even need to like switch network to figure out what bridge they will need to use, because they just perform the action that they want to perform. And thinking like what bridge should be used, what wrapped asset will it be liquid or not, and it's really complicated thing for the regular user. And we just with a dBridge we aim to provide some really great user experience, and we aim to drive user experience to the new level. And one of the cool features that we'll have with the automatic transaction execution, because when user perform cross-chain transaction, he can assign small execution fee, and that transaction in the target blockchain, that transaction will be arbitrary wallet or keeper this execution fee as a reward. And that allows, for example, to swap, let's say, from Ethereum to BNB directly, even though it's newly created wallet that does not have any BNB on its balance. So because, for example, when I last time tried to bridge liquidity into one of the blockchains, I used Bridge. And in order to claim my transaction, I needed to top up my wallet in that blockchain. And that's why I bridged actually asset in order to tap up. And that's complicating, and we aim to solve this with keepers.
Okay, so you aim to solve that with keepers. So like the way that I think about that typically is if I'm using some brand new blockchain, typically there's faucets to help with the gas. So like Moonriver, for example, has there's faucets on Moonriver and on Phantom and on all these new sort of like Ethereum related blockchains.
Ethereum, yes, but let's think you have USDT or Ethereum in Ethereum blockchain, and you want to top up your Solana wallet with some Solana to cover gas costs. How do you do that
Right, exactly.
And when you will bridge some asset, you will need to claim it in the Solana, and you need to Solana token in order to claim it to pay transaction fee, and that's the most trickiest part.
Got it. And I mean, I think you're already going down this direction in this conversation, but it's really just about sort of the future of dBridge and sort of where things are going now. Again, we're excited to be working together and sort of at the tail end of working on our first of particular audits. But where do you see this in 6 to 12 to 18 months from now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So right now we are focused on the integration with all EVM blockchains, and down the road we will implement more blockchains. We have also integration with the smart contract-less blockchains in our roadmap. For example, if you would add Bitcoin blockchain, you'll have dBTC, which is a wrapped asset for Bitcoin, and that will allow to have alternatives to RAN BTC or to WBTC that are existing now. But the point is that with dBridge, we will have truly decentralized wrapped Bitcoin, and it will be the security of it will be guaranteed by the collateral of dBridge validators as well. And that's not the only thing. So for one of the most important part is integration with other protocols, because the main problem of the existing DeFi industry is fragmentation. And most people are talking about liquidity fragmentation, but it's actually more than that. We have not only liquidity fragmentation, but the technology fragmentation as well. For example, we have so many AMMs, right? We have like Bake or Pancake in Binance Smart Chain. We have Uniswap or Balancer in Ethereum, and every project tries to tap into specific ecosystem and to compete within this specific ecosystem. And what dBridge will do, dBridge will allow to unify all the ecosystems all together and drive the competition to the next level, so that not only like Bake will compete with the Pancake Swap in Binance Smart Chain, but Pancake Swap will compete with Radium in Solana, because as a user, I will have an option whether I should use protocol in, let's say, Binance Smart Chain, or whether I should use the protocol in Solana. And the competition drives quality. And the good example here would be, for example, trading of futures, right? Let's say I have some USDT and I need to in Polygon, and I want to open the short position on BTC market. Where should I do that? And I will have an option to do that either on Mango markets, let's say at Solana, or in perpetual protocol in XDAI. And so they pointed that ecosystems will not compete with each other, but it will be kind of unified ecosystem where projects will allow more opportunities to their users. And in regards to our roadmap, we have many things that are planned. And first of all, it's integration with other blockchains. Solana will be first non-EVM blockchain that we'll support. Then we plan to integrate Terra and Algorand and some other ecosystems. And the point of that, we strive to keep dBridge as a blockchain agnostic and technology agnostic technology and the protocol. So yeah, if there is demand for any specific blockchain, we are ready to integrate with it. And privacy feature is really interesting thing as well. And I touched a bit about the Tornado Cash, and I really think that it's a great technology based on ZK proofs. And one of the things I would really be happy to see, for example, is if Tornado Cash will integrate D assets minted by dBridge protocol into their protocol. That will allow users of any blockchain to pass liquidity through Tornado Cash and to have truly anonymous transfers and privacy as well. Yeah, that's one of the examples. And A lot of things are planned. We just want
Yeah.
to move step by step.
Perfect. Well, before we wrap up, one last call for anyone that might have questions, and it appears as though Huxwell. Let's bring up Huxwell. Let's see. Hey there.
Hello, guys. Yeah, I had a few different questions, if you don't mind. The first one is about Chainlink. I was wondering if you already use Chainlink 2.0. Like, if you use Keepers, I guess you do. Is that right?
No, we actually we don't use, as I said, we strive to keep the project technology agnostic, right? And
Okay.
within dBridge, the point of that, any arbitrary wallet can be keeper, and anyone who executes transaction receives execution fee. It can be either Chainlink keeper, or it can be keepers of Andre Cronje, or just a regular wallet that just wants to earn some fees from execution of transaction.
Okay, cool. I see. And the other question was more like related to the development workflow. I was wondering, like, how do you make sure that your developers are writing secure code, and like, yeah, what's the balance between relying on audits and internal security?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And first of all, we cover everything by tests. And that's very important, especially for Solidity code and for code of the smart contracts. And secondly, we have multiple rounds of code reviews. And the final code review is performed by Yaroslav, by our CTO. And not only by him, we have some really strong Ethereum developers who are helping to review code and to make sure everything is secure. And only after multiple reviews and covering everything by tests, we send it for the security audit.
Okay, thank you. Great answer. And great project, by the way.
Thanks.
Hey, Thuck. Thanks, Huxwell. Anyone else have a question before we wrap up with Alex? He is a busy man, so I want to be cognizant of time.
No, I'm not actually, but
hey, fair enough. Well, great. I think we'll wrap up there. Alex, thank you so much for your time. Where's the website and what's really the call to action before we wrap this up?
I would say follow our social channels and stay tuned, because we soon will announce the new version of our testnet, which will be based on the same smart contract that we that are passing security audits right now. And in coming weeks, we will have the mainnet launch as well. So stay tuned, and a lot of exciting things are coming for the cross-chain interoperability, and we want community to be a part of it, to test everything, and we are always ready for any kind of feedback. So yeah, feel free to text our social channels as well.
Awesome. And from our end over at Halborn, we wanted to thank Alex for being our first sort of alpha or beta test user of our new AMA series. We got some great feedback in regards to this, and can't thank you enough for taking the time. And stay tuned for more AMAs as we build this along. So anyway, thanks again. Thanks everyone for joining, and thank you, Alex, for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Really excited to work with Halborn, by the way, and thanks for inviting. Even though it's the first time, I think it went really well.
All right, perfect. Awesome. All right, well, thanks everyone. Cheers, and be well. Talk to you all soon.
Yeah. Thank you.